When my daughter told me to find another place to die, calling me useless, I packed my belongings like the dutiful mother I'd always been. 3 days later, I found myself in a lawyer's office, uncovering that my supposedly devoted husband had played a masterful, decades-long game of strategy. Amelia was about to discover that even a pawn can become a queen. If you're watching this, hit subscribe and share where you're tuning in from. Let me tell you how I transformed from a homeless widow to the woman holding all the aces. This tale has more turns than a labyrinth. 2 months ago, I was Elizabeth Harper, a loyal wife of 43 years and mother to a spectacularly ungrateful daughter. When Edward suffered a fatal heart attack at 71, I thought my life was over. Amelia swooped in during my mourning, dressed in designer outfits like a predator circling its prey, cooing about how hard this must be for me. "Mom, you can't possibly handle this big house alone," she said, her voice laced with crocodile tears. "The stairs, the upkeep, all those memories, it's not good for you." I should have seen the scheming behind her sympathy. Amelia had always been Edward's darling, his perfect princess who could do no wrong. When she married Nathan, her investment banker husband, and started a family, Edward showered them with affection. I, on the other hand, was merely the woman who cooked, cleaned, and kept the household running like clockwork. After Edward's funeral, Amelia grew more aggressive about my situation. She and Nathan would show up for family dinners, armed with real estate flyers and brochures for retirement homes. "Mom, these places are amazing," they'd say. "You'd have people your age, fun activities, no burdens." What they really meant was no inheritance to share, no bothersome mother to deal with. The final straw came last Tuesday. I'd been living in what Amelia now claimed as our house for 6 weeks since Edward's death, sleeping in the guest room because I couldn't face clearing out our bedroom. Amelia arrived unannounced with Nathan and 2 large suitcases. "Mom, we've made a decision," she declared. "Nathan got a promotion, and we need to move into town right away. This house is perfect for us." I stared, struggling to process. "Move in? But this is my home." For a moment, Amelia's facade cracked, revealing cold calculation. "Actually, Mom, per Dad's will, I inherited everything, the house, the investments, all of it. I've been letting you stay out of kindness, but it's time you found your own place." Her words struck like a slap. "Amelia, there must be a mistake." "No mistake," she snapped. "Dad knew I'd manage his legacy better than you ever could. You never understood finances or investments. You were just the wife." Just the wife, 43 years distilled into 3 cruel words. Then came her final blow: "Find somewhere else to die. You're useless now." I packed in a daze, 43 years of my life fitting into 2 suitcases and a small box of photographs. Amelia stood in the doorway, glancing at her watch as if I were delaying her important plans. "There's a decent senior complex on Maple Street," she said, as casually as recommending a cafe. "Very affordable. I'm sure they have openings." Affordable, my daughter was set to inherit $33 million, yet she was suggesting I move into what amounted to a charity home for seniors. Nathan loaded my bags into their BMW with the efficiency of someone discarding trash. "Elizabeth, you'll love your independence again," he said, avoiding my gaze. "No more worrying about house upkeep or taxes. No more home," he meant. As we drove away, I watched my house, Edward's house, now Amelia's, fade in the rearview mirror. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent 4 decades turning that house into a home, hosting Amelia's birthday parties, caring for Edward during his illness, tending to every detail he valued. Now, I was being shuttled to a cheap motel like an unwanted guest who'd overstayed. The Sunset Inn lived up to its $49 a night reputation: thin walls, threadbare towels, and a carpet from another era. Amelia handed me $200 in cash, as if tipping a bellhop. "This should tide you over for a few days while you settle," she said. "I'll have Nathan transfer some money to your account once we sort through Dad's paperwork. Some money from my own inheritance." After they left, I sat on the lumpy mattress, trying to grasp what had just happened. In 3 hours, I'd gone from a grieving widow to a homeless senior citizen. The daughter I'd raised, loved, and sacrificed for had tossed me aside like an outdated appliance. But as I sat in that grim motel room, a nagging thought emerged. Edward had always been meticulous about his affairs, almost to the point of being obsessive about organizing important documents. Years ago, he'd shown me his will, explaining his intentions clearly, and I was certain it didn't say what Amelia claimed. Edward could be traditional, sometimes stubborn, even patronizing about finances, but he wasn't heartless. The man who held my hand through my mother's passing, who surprised me with flowers every anniversary, wouldn't have left me penniless. The next morning, I used the motel's spotty Wi-Fi to look up Edward's attorney, William Langley, who'd handled our home purchase and various business dealings over the years. His office was a 20-minute bus ride downtown, costing me precious cash but feeling essential. William, a distinguished man in his 70s with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, looked surprised when his secretary announced that Mrs. Harper was here about her husband's estate. Elizabeth, my dear, I was wondering when you'd come by. I tried calling your house several times, but Amelia said you were traveling. Traveling? That's what my daughter had told him. Mr. Langley, I need to know about Edward's will. He frowned, puzzled. Of course. Didn't Amelia give you your copy? I provided her with the original and several duplicates after the reading. My stomach sank. There was a reading? Elizabeth, you were supposed to be there. Amelia said you were too overwhelmed with grief, that she'd handle everything and ensure you received your inheritance. My face paled as the truth hit me. Mr. Langley, I was never told about a reading. Amelia said she inherited everything. William's expression shifted from confusion to alarm. He grabbed a thick file folder, his movements urgent. Elizabeth, that's impossible. Your husband's will is very clear about your inheritance. He pulled out a document bearing Edward's precise signature, witnessed and notarized. As William read, I realized Amelia had lied about everything. I, Edward Charles Harper, being of sound mind and body, do hereby bequeath to my beloved wife Elizabeth and Harper the following: our primary residence at 847 Oakwood Drive, including all furnishings and personal effects, plus 70% of all financial assets, investments, and accounts totaling approximately $23 million. My head spun. $23 million. The house. 70% of everything. William's voice grew grave as he continued. To my daughter, Amelia Harper Brooks, I leave $10 million in trust, with distributions beginning on her 45th birthday, contingent upon her treatment of her mother after my death. Contingent upon her treatment of me. Edward had anticipated Amelia's actions. Mr. Langley, I whispered, Amelia told me I got nothing. She moved into my house and gave me $200 to find a senior facility. William's face reddened with anger. Elizabeth, what Amelia has done constitutes elder abuse and fraud, multiple felonies. She showed you papers, didn't she? Yes, but they must have been forged or from an earlier draft. Your husband revised his will 6 months before his death, specifically because he was concerned about Amelia's greed and entitlement. The room seemed to tilt. All those times Amelia dismissed my input, interrupted me at family dinners, or rolled her eyes when I spoke about their lavish vacations or Nathan's deals, Edward had noticed. He'd been observing, assessing, and planning. There's more, Elizabeth. The trust for Amelia stipulates that if she fails to treat you with respect and dignity after my death, her entire $10 million reverts to you. I stared, stunned. I'm saying your daughter just lost $10 million. Her inheritance is now yours, too. You're not getting $23 million, Elizabeth, you're getting $33 million, plus the house and all personal property. The irony was almost comical. Amelia's greed had triggered the very clause meant to protect me. What do I do now? I asked, my voice unsteady. William smiled, the first genuine warmth I'd felt since Edward's death. Now, my dear, we call the police about the fraud. Then we contact Amelia and let her know she's in for the shock of her life. Can she fight this? With what funds? She's about to learn that every account she thought she controlled is actually yours. Every investment, every bank account, every asset except the house is frozen pending investigation of her fraud. I pictured Amelia in my home, probably planning renovations or shopping for furniture with money she believed was hers. Nathan was likely calculating how the inheritance would boost his portfolio. They had no idea their world was about to collapse in 6 hours. William's office became the hub of what he gleefully dubbed Operation Justice. He contacted the police, banks, and a private investigator while I sat in his leather chair, grappling with the scope of Amelia's betrayal. The forged documents are quite sophisticated, Detective Martinez explained, examining the fake will Amelia had shown me. This wasn't impulsive. Someone planned this carefully. Do you think Amelia had help? I asked. Almost certainly. Forging convincing legal documents requires expertise and connections. We'll investigate whether Nathan or someone in his financial circle was involved. Within 2 hours, every account was frozen. Amelia's credit cards, tied to what she thought was her new fortune, were declined. The house utilities, which she'd already transferred to her name, were suspended pending ownership verification. My phone rang at 3:47 p.m., Amelia's name on the screen. Mom, where are you? There's a mix-up with the bank accounts. They're saying Daddy's assets are frozen. Hello, Amelia. I'm in William Langley's office. You remember him, Daddy's lawyer, the one who read the real will to an empty room while you said I was traveling. Silence. Then, Mom, I don't know what you think you've uncovered, but I've uncovered that you're a liar and a thief, sweetheart. I also learned your father was far smarter than either of us gave him credit for. Her tone sharpened, desperate. You don't understand. I was protecting you from the complexity of managing all that money. You've never dealt with investments. I understand perfectly. You forged documents, committed fraud, and threw your 67-year-old mother out of her home because you thought I was too stupid to notice. Her voice turned shrill. Mom, you're confused. The grief is overwhelming, and someone's clearly exploiting your emotional state. Her audacity was staggering. Even caught, she tried to manipulate me. Amelia, let me clarify. Not only did you inherit nothing, but the $10 million your father left you is now mine, thanks to a clause about treating me with dignity and respect. That's impossible. Detective Martinez is here if you'd like to discuss the impossibility of fraud charges with her. The line went silent. I could almost hear Amelia's mind scrambling for an escape. Mom, please, can we meet and talk this out rationally? I'm sure we can find a solution. Oh, we'll meet soon, at the courthouse when you're arraigned. You wouldn't dare press charges against your own daughter. Something cold and resolute formed in my chest. Watch me. I hung up and met William's approving grin. How long before she's arrested? Detective Martinez has enough for a warrant. They'll pick her up tonight. As for Nathan, his financial records are being subpoenaed. If he helped forge those documents, he's facing charges, too. My phone buzzed with a text from Amelia. Mom, please don't do this. Think about the grandchildren. I showed it to Detective Martinez, who smirked. Emotional manipulation, textbook behavior for this kind of crime. I replied, I'm thinking about them. They deserve to know what happens when you steal from family. 20 minutes later, Nathan called. Elizabeth, surely we can settle this privately. Amelia made bad choices, but involving the police feels extreme. Nathan, did you help forge those documents? That's not, Elizabeth, you have to understand the pressure Amelia was under. She was worried about your mental state, your ability to handle large sums. So, you did. Throwing me out of my house and telling me to find somewhere to die was your way of protecting me? Silence. Nathan, here's what's happening. You're both getting arrested. You're both facing federal fraud charges. And I'll be in my house, watching it unfold. Elizabeth, please be reasonable. I was reasonable for 43 years. It didn't work out. The police arrested Amelia at 8:30 p.m. while she dined at Le Bernardin, apparently celebrating her inheritance with Nathan and another couple. Detective Martinez said she screamed about false arrest and demanded her lawyer, a golf buddy of Nathan's with no criminal law experience. Nathan was arrested at his office the next morning. A forensic accountant traced the forged documents to a printing company that Nathan's yes firm used for fraudulent investment prospectuses. Apparently, my son-in-law had a criminal history Amelia either ignored or didn't know about. I spent my first night back in my house, sleeping in the master bedroom. Amelia had already moved her belongings in, replacing Edward's meticulous order with her chaos of designer clothes and luxury cosmetics. I packed her things into garbage bags and left them on the porch. Let her pick them up if she made bail. The house felt different, not because Edward was gone, but because I saw it as mine. For decades, I'd shaped it as Edward's haven, reflecting his tastes, his needs, his vision. Now, I realized how little of myself was in these rooms. That was about to change. William called at noon with updates. Through the window, I saw Amelia on my porch, wearing yesterday's clothes, looking like she'd aged a decade overnight. She'd made bail somehow. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. Mom, please, we need to talk. We talked yesterday. You told me to find somewhere to die. I found somewhere to live instead. Her eyes were red, her composure shattered. I made terrible mistakes, but I'm still your daughter. Are you? Daughters don't forge documents to steal their mother's inheritance. I wasn't stealing. I was, she faltered, searching for non-incriminating words. You were what, Amelia? I was protecting you from bad financial decisions. You've never handled large sums. Even after her arrest, she couldn't admit the truth. In her mind, she was the victim of my unreasonable expectations. Amelia, let me share something your father told me 6 months before he died. He was worried about your entitlement, your attitude toward money, how you treated people you deemed lesser. Her face paled. Daddy never said that. He said you reminded him of his sister, Charlotte, beautiful, charming, and incapable of caring about anyone but yourself. He changed the will because he feared what you'd do to me if you had control. That's a lie. I showed her a voice recording on my phone. It's not. Your father made a video explaining his decision, to be played if you contested the will or mistreated me. She stared at the phone like it was venomous. He knew, sweetheart. He saw who you really were. Play it, she whispered. I pressed play, and Edward's voice filled the air, calm and devastating. If you're hearing this, Amelia, my fears about your character were justified. I hoped I was wrong, that my daughter had more integrity than I feared. But if Elizabeth is playing this, you've proven me right in the worst way. Amelia collapsed onto the porch steps as Edward's voice continued. I watched your mother sacrifice her dreams, ambitions, and independence for 43 years to care for our family. She worked part-time to fund your college while I built my business. She delayed her education, gave up career opportunities, and devoted herself to being the wife and mother we needed. The recording went on for 3 minutes, each word a precise cut through Amelia's excuses. By now, you've learned that mistreating your mother costs you everything. I hope it was worth it. When it ended, Amelia sobbed, not her usual manipulative tears, but raw, broken ones. He hated me, she whispered. No, Amelia, he loved you enough to hope you'd prove him wrong. You chose to prove him right. She looked up, mascara streaking her face. What now? Now you face the consequences, fraud charges, investigation, public humiliation when this hits the news. Channel 7 wants to interview me about elder financial abuse. I'm considering it. Her face collapsed. Mom, please, think about the grandchildren, Nathan's career, our family. I am thinking about them. You didn't know when you committed felonies. She stood, looking defeated. I know you won't believe me, but I never meant it to go this far. I just wanted the money, the security, the status. I wanted to never worry again. For the first time, she was honest. I believe you, Amelia, but wanting something doesn't justify destroying people to get it. She nodded, tears streaming. What can I do to fix this? Admit what you did was wrong, not misguided, not protective, just wrong. Then face the consequences with dignity instead of manipulating your way out. She stared at me, perhaps seeing not the compliant mother she'd known, but the woman who'd outsmarted her. I deserved this, didn't I? Yes, Amelia. You did. 3 days later, Nathan's mother, Charlotte Brooks, appeared at my door. She was exactly as I'd imagined, impeccably styled, dripping with jewelry, exuding generational wealth. Elizabeth, we need to discuss this rationally. I invited her in, curious about the Brooks family's version of reality. Charlotte settled in my living room like a queen, granting an audience. Nathan made poor choices, obviously, but prosecuting him seems vindictive, don't you think? Vindictive? Your son helped steal my inheritance and threw me out of my home. Nathan was following Amelia's lead. He didn't grasp the full situation. She was blaming my daughter for her son's crimes. I admired the nerve. Mrs. Brooks, Nathan forged legal documents. That's not following a lead, that's conspiracy to commit fraud. Nathan's lawyer believes we can settle this to benefit everyone. You keep the house, Amelia faces consequences, and Nathan avoids a public trial. What kind of settlement? She smiled, sensing an opening. Nathan's family will compensate you for your inconvenience, $2 million to drop the charges against him. $2 million to forgive the man who helped steal $33 million. Mrs. Brooks, your son helped take everything I owned. You think $2 million covers that? Elizabeth, be realistic. Nathan has a career, children, and a reputation. Prison serves no one. It serves justice. Her polished mask slipped. Justice? You're destroying families over money you wouldn't know how to manage anyway. There it was, the same condescension that poisoned my relationship with Amelia. Mrs. Brooks, we're done. Reconsider, Elizabeth. $5 million, final offer. $5 million to let Nathan walk. The sum was huge, but the principle wasn't. My answer is no. Charlotte stood, her composure restored. Very well, but Nathan's legal team found interesting details about your husband's business practices. It'd be unfortunate if those went public during the trial. The threat was clear, but I felt only curiosity. What details? The kind that might make you question who the real criminal was. After she left, I called William. Elizabeth, whatever they think they found doesn't change Amelia and Nathan's crimes. But could it affect the case? If they create enough doubt about Edward's character or business, it might sway a jury. I thought about Edward, our marriage, and the secrets hidden in 43 years. William, I want to know everything about Edward's business, every deal, partnership, irregularity. Are you sure? Sometimes the past is better left alone. The Brooks family wants to drag Edward's memory through the mud to protect their son. I'd rather know the truth first. That evening, I sat in Edward's study, my study, digging through his files. Edward's meticulous records revealed inconsistencies, payments to shell companies, exorbitant consulting fees, partnerships with firms that seemed to exist only on paper. By midnight, I'd uncovered something that shattered my understanding of my husband. Rachel Liu, a sharp-eyed private investigator specializing in financial crimes, spent 6 hours in the study, photographing documents and piecing together Edward's true business. Mrs. Harper, your husband ran a sophisticated money laundering operation through his consulting firm, handling millions in illegal transactions over a decade. The revelation hit like a blow. That's impossible. Edward was the most honest man I knew. I'm sorry, but the evidence is clear. He was laundering money for organized crime families, using his legitimate business as a cover. I stared at the documents, fake invoices, contracts for non-existent services, payment schedules tied to criminal activities. How long? At least 12 years, likely more. 12 years. While I planned dinners and attended galas, my husband facilitated crime. There's more, Rachel said. The $10 million left to Amelia came from laundered funds. If the FBI finds out, they'll seize everything as criminal proceeds. The room spun. Everything, the house, the investments, could be gone. Unless what? Unless Amelia and Nathan's legal team already knows and plans to use it as leverage. If they tip off the FBI, they could negotiate immunity for cooperation. My daughter and son-in-law weren't just thieves, they held a weapon over me. What are my options? Legally, you could go to the FBI yourself, come clean, and hope for leniency. You'd lose most of the money but might keep the house. Otherwise, Amelia and Nathan's lawyers will likely leak this strategically, and you'll lose everything, possibly facing charges for benefiting from crime. I thought of Charlotte's smugness, her certainty I'd take their offer. They'd known about Edward's crimes. My phone rang. Amelia. Mom, we need to meet tonight. There are things about Daddy that change everything. I already know, Amelia. Silence. Know what? The money laundering, the criminal connections, the tainted inheritance. Mom, listen carefully. Nathan's lawyers are talking to the FBI. They'll let us renegotiate. Nathan gets immunity for exposing Daddy's network. You keep $5 million in the house. The rest goes to the government. And you? The fraud charges vanish. We all walk away. It was a sociopathic masterpiece. Amelia had turned my moral high ground into her leverage. You're asking me to profit from your crimes by exploiting Daddy's. I'm asking you to be practical. The alternative is losing everything and maybe facing charges. I looked around Edward's study, seeing the blood money in every detail. 43 years married to a stranger, a daughter who inherited his knack for deception. But she'd underestimated me. I called Rachel. How fast can you get me a meeting with the FBI? I have a story they'll want to hear. FBI agent Catherine Wells was every inch a federal investigator, serious, sharp, immune to charm. In William's conference room, she recorded our talk with precision. Mrs. Harper, you understand that coming forward means admitting you may have benefited from criminal proceeds? I'd rather tell the truth than let my daughter and her husband manipulate this to their advantage. I laid out everything: Edward's secret business, Amelia's fraud, Nathan's forgeries, their extortion disguised as a settlement. Your daughter thinks she can trade your husband's crimes for immunity. That's exactly what she thinks, believing I'll comply out of fear. Agent Wells smiled faintly. Are you afraid, Mrs. Harper? 2 weeks ago, I was a widow in a cheap motel. Today, I'm confessing to federal agents about my husband's crimes. Fear isn't my main emotion anymore. What is? Pure, focused anger at being underestimated for decades. Her smile grew. Mrs. Harper, would you wear a wire? 3 hours later, I sat in my living room, a recording device taped to my chest, waiting for Amelia and Nathan. They arrived at 8 p.m., dressed for a business meeting. Nathan carried a briefcase, likely holding immunity agreements. Mom, you look better than you have in weeks, Amelia said, kissing my cheek as if nothing had happened. Clarity does that. Nathan opened his briefcase with practiced ease. Elizabeth, our lawyers crafted a very favorable deal. You keep the house, $5 million in clean assets, and immunity from Edward's activities. Clean assets. Interesting phrase. Amelia shot Nathan a look. Mom, the point is we're all protected. The past stays buried, and we move forward. What about the $33 million Edward left me? That money's tainted, Mom. It's tied to Daddy's crimes. Taking $5 million is the best outcome. And you too? What do you get? Nathan leaned in, confident. We put this misunderstanding behind us. Amelia's charges disappear, my reputation stays intact, and our family heals. Misunderstanding? You call felony fraud a misunderstanding? Elizabeth, let's focus on the deal. Nathan, when did you learn about Edward's crimes? Before you married Amelia, or while planning to steal my inheritance? They exchanged glances. That's not relevant, Nathan said. It's very relevant. If you knew about the laundering and stayed silent, you're an accessory. If you found out while committing your own crimes, you're just unlucky. Amelia's composure wavered. Mom, what are you implying? That you planned this for months, maybe years, the forged will, the laundering discovery, Nathan's forgery connections. None of it was spontaneous. That's absurd. Is it? Agent Wells finds it quite plausible. Their faces drained of color. Agent Wells? Nathan whispered. FBI. She's very interested in my story of elder abuse, fraud, and extortion, especially the part where you blackmailed me with my husband's crimes. Nathan stood, grabbing his briefcase. Elizabeth, this conversation is over. Actually, it's just starting. Agent Wells and 2 agents entered. They confiscated Nathan's briefcase and their phones. Amelia Harper Brooks and Nathan Brooks, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, elder abuse, and attempted extortion of a federal witness. Amelia turned to me, betrayal in her eyes. Mom, how could you do this to your family? The same way you forged documents and stole my inheritance, sweetheart, except my way's legal. As they were cuffed, Nathan tried a final ploy. Elizabeth, you don't know what you've done. People tied to Edward's business won't like federal scrutiny. You're in danger. Agent Wells paused. Mr. Brooks, are you threatening a witness? I'm warning her. That's witness intimidation added to your charges. After they were taken away, Agent Wells sat with me. Mrs. Harper, Nathan's warning may have some truth. Your husband was tied to the Russo crime family, who've used legitimate businesses for laundering for decades. His firm was one of their best fronts. The name meant nothing, but her tone said everything. Am I in physical danger? Possibly, but there's more. Your husband wasn't just laundering for them, he was an FBI informant for 12 years, providing intel while maintaining his cover. The world shifted. Edward was working for the FBI. Deep cover, long term. The operation was so secret that even local FBI offices didn't know. He helped build cases against multiple crime families, leading to 47 arrests and $200 million in seized assets. Why wasn't I told? The investigation was ongoing, and we weren't sure of your involvement. Your daughter and son-in-law's scheme helped prove your innocence. The irony was exquisite. Amelia tried to steal my inheritance twice, through fraud and blackmail, using incomplete information that exonerated Edward. What now? You get your money, your daughter and son-in-law face charges, and you decide your future with your legitimate inheritance. The Russo family will be too busy with their own legal issues to target you. We're executing warrants across 3 states tomorrow. I looked around my living room, now a symbol of my triumph. Agent Wells, am I a terrible person for feeling satisfied about Amelia's arrest? She smiled. Mrs. Harper, you refuse to be a victim. That's not terrible, it's inspiring. 6 months later, I stood in my renovated kitchen, brewing coffee for 2. Sunlight poured through new windows, highlighting countertops I'd chosen myself. Good morning, Elizabeth, said Dr. Emily Liu, Rachel's sister and my financial advisor, holding investment reports. Good morning, Emily. Ready for our quarterly review? The past 6 months had been a whirlwind: legal battles, media interviews, personal reinvention. Amelia and Nathan were serving 18-month federal sentences. My story had made me a figure in senior advocacy circles. Your portfolio's thriving, Emily said at my new breakfast table. The charitable foundation is running smoothly, and the scholarship fund has its first recipients. The Elizabeth Harper Foundation for Elder Protection, funded with $15 million of my inheritance, supported legal aid for seniors and pushed for stronger elder laws. Any news on the documentary? Netflix confirmed the deal. Filming starts next month. My story, The Mother's Revenge, was becoming a limited series, with proceeds aiding elder advocacy. And Amelia? Emily's tone grew cautious. She wrote again. Her lawyer says she wants to apologize and seek forgiveness. Amelia had sent 17 prison letters. I read the first few, self-justifying, then desperate, before stopping. Some bonds, once shattered, can't be mended with words. Has my stance changed? Not based on our talks, but people evolve, Elizabeth. I thought of the woman I was 6 months ago, grieving, dependent, accepting scraps of dignity. That woman might have felt obligated to forgive. She was gone. Emily, set a meeting with Amelia's lawyer, not to reconcile, but to clarify something. What? I want Amelia to know her actions destroyed our relationship permanently. Her children will grow up knowing why she went to prison. That's harsh. It's meant to be. Amelia made choices that hurt those she was supposed to love. She doesn't escape the emotional fallout with letters. Emily noted it. And the grandchildren? Amelia wants supervised visits. My relationship with them depends on their choices as adults, not her redemption attempts. The doorbell rang, a delivery truck with new studio furniture. Edward's former den was now my art studio, where I was rediscovering painting, abandoned when I became a wife and mother. Elizabeth, do you ever regret how this played out, the sentences, the publicity, the family rift? I considered this while signing for the delivery. 6 months ago, I was invisible, homeless, hopeless. Now, I was a philanthropist with a foundation, a documentary, and a purpose. Emily, my daughter, tried to steal everything and leave me homeless. My son-in-law forged documents and blackmailed me. They showed who they were when they thought I was powerless. But their family. Their DNA. Family protects you when you're vulnerable, not exploits you for profit. Emily closed her portfolio, satisfied. Besides, I added, look what I became when I stopped letting them define my worth. After she left, I walked through my house, decorated to my taste, built around my priorities. In the studio, I unveiled my latest painting, a self-portrait of a woman in sunlight, facing forward. She wasn't the widow who packed her life into suitcases. She was powerful, independent, and fearless. She learned the best revenge settling scores, becoming everything your enemies never believed you could be. Outside, the sun set behind trees I'd planted and soil I owned, on property I defended with wit and courage, not inherited through marriage or birth. Tomorrow, I'd keep building the life I chose, not one others designed. If Amelia wanted to reconnect with this woman, she'd need more than letters and apologies, she'd need a transformation as profound as mine. Thanks for listening. Subscribe and share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.